See, Srimad Bhagavatam, as I said already, he is singing the glory and the splendor of the supreme spiritual wisdom. And in the process of exposing the supreme spiritual wisdom, it has a very clear objective. What is that? Naishkarmyam. This is a word I would like every one of you to know well. Discuss about it. Think about it. Understand it very well. Later on, one of the yogis is going to tell us karma mokshaya karmani. All the activities that we are performing in this world, whether it is a domestic or a residential activity on the one hand, or maybe an official or a professional one, or a societal one, including the religious and spiritual activities, all of them are ultimately to leave everything. Karma mokshaya. Only to get redemption and release from karma activities, karmani. We are performing a variety and an assortment of activities. You will find that our eyes go on looking right from the childhood. Ultimately, the power of vision is lessened, it reduces. Finally, we may not be able to see at all if we live long enough. The same applies to any other sensory organ, the ear also. The tongue loses its taste. The nose is not able to detect smell, and the difference in different types of touch are not able to be felt by the skin. So if you live long enough, you will not have any sensation at all. So all the activities are ultimately to be redeemed of all of them. In the same manner here he says, Naishkarmi. You must live in this world and outlive everything. I always say, living means outliving. We were inside the mother's womb, we outlived that stage, came out, we were delivered off. And we were a little child, a baby. That babyhood was outlived. We became a boy or a girl. That also was outlived. Ultimately we become youthful, middle-aged. That's also outlived. Then we become an old-ager. That is also outlived. Life itself is outlived. So let us be very clear that Naishkarmya is the siddhi to be attained even according to spiritual, religious culture, wisdom and evaluation. That Naishkarmyam is presented in Srimad Bhagavata. How is it presenting it? As I explained it. Tatra jnana viraga bhakti sahidam Naishkarmyam avishkritam. First of all, knowledge. Knowledge about oneself, that you are the soul. Knowledge about the world, that it is perishable, however alluring and fascinating it may appear to be. And knowledge about God, the Supreme Self, the Supreme Almighty, who is present everywhere, who is not anything material, nor is it anything energial. God is not something visible or somebody visible at all. He is like the so-called space. I would like to describe God as sentient space. Sentient space. Sentient. Understand this expression. Space by itself is inert. It has got no sensitiveness at all. If you can think of something like a sentient space, we call it Chidakasha. The Akasha of consciousness. That consciousness, sky or space. That is the nature of God. So, Yatra Tatra Jnana Viraga Bhakti Sahidam. So, knowledge is presented. Right from the beginning it is knowledge. Every word is representing an idea or a unit of knowledge. So, whenever you speak words or express emotions, they are always conveying in one manner or another some measure of knowledge. So, that knowledge is very clearly presented here. Sudha right in the beginning said, Vadanti tattvavidaha tattvam yajnanamadvayam brahmedi paramatmedi bhagavaniti shabdyate. Actually, there is something called knowledge becoming non-dual. There is no differentiation at all anywhere in this world on any account whatsoever. Any experience is internal, personal, inner. And the experience is generated by the mind or generated by the consciousness. Whatever objects you are perceiving, the objects do not enter your system. You only perceive them. So all the objects are your perception, your experience, your realization. And the realization is always of one and the same product, consciousness. So whatever realization the consciousness presents is, after all, realization is consciousness itself. What about the dream that you are having? In the dream you see a world. The entire world is seen and projected by the mind. But actually the mind alone is present there. It is mind and mind existence alone. Though you are seeing a world of matter, energy and whatnot. So there is a time when you are able to understand that everything is non-dual, the same consciousness. This is very, very important. This non-dual knowledge, Sudha says, is really all the other things that you are referring to. What are they? Brahmedi Paramatmedi Bhagavaniti Shabdyate. Brahman, the supreme reality. Paramatma, the inmost self. And Bhagavan, the great Lord. All are really speaking Advaita knowledge, Advaya knowledge. That kind of an enlightenment is provided by Srimad Bhagavatam. It started with what? Shamika Maharshi exhorting his little son Shringi, saying that for a small crime committed by the great king, you have given a huge punishment, he said. See, a child is being enlightened, and he also told him, we are ascetics, we have an ascetic heritage, and we are not supposed to be irritable, intolerant. Anybody may do anything. The people may inflict us with a number of pairs of opposites, but we are not supposed to be ruffled at all. Why? Yata Atma Aguna Ashraya. We are all the self which is devoid of, above, bereft of, transcending all the gunas. Understand this. There also it is knowledge offered. And what is Shuga Maharshi doing before Parikshit? Only giving him knowledge, nothing else. Shuga Maharshi goes on speaking. Parikshit goes on hearing. I am speaking, and all of you viewers are seeing and listening. Seeing and listening. What is your Swamiji doing? He is transmitting, emitting, expressing through words, through perhaps some gesticulations that he has. All knowledge, knowledge and knowledge alone. To be felt by your inside in the form of an experience. So it is only jnana, jnana and jnana. Anywhere and everywhere. Shuka Maharshi is giving only knowledge. And the knowledge is transfused or infused, instilled, imbued into Parikshit. As a result of which Parikshit's inner mind becomes purer and purer. Intelligence becomes more and more illumined. The heart goes on expanding and expanding. Ultimately he dissolves himself into the universal presence in the end. It's all a transformation wrought by, worked by, brought about by imparting wisdom. So jnana is one factor. Viraga, dispassion. What is dispassion? Dispassion. What is it? Understanding that everything in this world is perishable, 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 including your body, your mind, your intelligence, your ego. Then is there anything imperishable? Certainly. The perishable by itself or by themselves cannot exist. They have to exist supported by, on the ground of a substratum which is imperishable. Without something imperishable, there cannot be perishability at all. So there is something like that. So understand the whole world to be perishable, and towards the perishable, your body also is perishable. When the perishable body interacts with the perishable world and acquires perishable objects, your perishability stands multiplied at every point of time. Will it serve your purpose? So every day you are becoming more mortal, exceedingly so. This is something to be avoided. So always focus yourself on the supreme and the imperishable. Naturally, viraga, dispassion. Normally the world is considered to be alluring. In place of an alluring world, you must have a world towards which you have an educated, a sublime, a beautiful note of dispassion. Dispassion is not hatred. It is not resentment. It is not rebuking. It is, on the other hand, a beautiful assessment about the perishability of the world, on the basis of which passion dies or dissolves and dispassion dawns. That is also cultivated in Srimad Bhagavatam repeatedly. Then bhakti. devotional fondness, devotional affinity, devotional attunement and devotional oneness to the Supreme Lord. Everywhere is bhakti, bhakti, bhakti. What is this bhakti? Bhakti is something whereby your heart and mind become completely absorbed in God. You start dwelling on God, resting on God, relying upon God. You love to hear His words about Him. You like to read descriptions about God. And all these are equally delightful, generating fondness, sweetness, exhilaration, excitement and fulfillment in you. This kind of a bhakti. So 3 items Srimad Bhagavata is presenting. Jnana Viraga Bhakti Sahidam. Along with this triplet, these 3, Naishkarmya Mahavishkritam. Naishkarmya Mahavishkritam. Naishkarmyam Avishkritam. Srimad Bhagavata is presenting the concept of, the ideal of, the value and attainment of Naishkarmya. I have lived in this world enough and more. I am satisfied. I am fulfilled. I don't have any further craving to be active or to attain anything. There is abundance in my mind, fullness in my mind, fulfillment in me. So I don't want to do anything. Naishkarmya. Why I am saying all these things? Just see. We are in the 11th skandha. It is an address by Krishna to Uddhava. And what for? Asking Uddhava to go to Badarikashrama. Asking Uddhava to go to Badarikashrama. Enough of it, Uddhava. You have lived long. You have served me for long. And you have been very fond of me. I also have been fond of you. There is a lot of mutuality between us. I am going to leave the world maybe in another 10 days. And you should leave the world even before that. Before that. You say you have no strength for it. That's a different matter he is going to tell you. So, Uddhava is being asked. And what is he asked? Go there to Badarikashrama, sit there in contemplation, see me everywhere, see me in yourself, and then undergo the passage of time. This is called the Naishkarmya. This is what Krishna advises. So, imagine the scene in which Uddhava is being advised, and at the end of it, in spite of his reluctance, shedding tears, putting the sandals of his master on his head, looking back, turning back, he goes away, proceeds into nothing else. This is called the Naishkarmya. That siddhi is Avishkritam. Srimad Bhagavata presents it there. Tat shrinvan vipathan vicharanaparo. Initially you start listening to this. You may not be able to read it and understand. Then buy a book. Go on reading it. There are so many books. Gorakhpur Gita Press produces a number of Srimad Bhagavatam books in Hindi, in Sanskrit. And it is almost a mistake-free publication. They are doing it in a very, very nice manner, at least as far as I was able to know. I am not so much in touch with the books now, but some years back I knew that it was very well brought about. Jayadayal Goenka on the one hand, Hanuman Prasad Podar on the other, both of them were very much given to propagation of the spiritual, beautiful literature. Valmiki Ramayana, Mahabharatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, and so many other books. They have got magazines also. The Kalyan magazine is perhaps the maximum circulated Hindi publication, spiritual literature in India. So you can get books. They are selling it in an unbelievably cheap, very small price they are giving it on. Vicharanaparo. After reading, you start reflecting upon, thoughtfully about what you have read. You may read 1 chapter or 2 chapters or even 3. That's okay for reading, recitation. It is a recitational reading, austerity, very good, it will purify you. After some time, after completing the 2 or 3 chapters, take 1 or 2 or 3 verses and go into them, word after word, word after word. I am explaining to you in a somewhat similar manner. Tat shrinvan, by listening to, vipathan, by reading, vicharanaparo, go on reflecting upon them, then bhaktya, by the power, by the process, by the pursuit, by the prevalence of bhakti, devotion, vimucche naraha. Any human being will be liberated. So in order to liberate the human being, what is necessary? Srimad Bhagavatam should be heard. Wherever there is a discourse, wherever there is a recitation, particularly a discourse, try to reach there and listen to until you have sufficiently absorbed what is recited. You know, if you progress in the understanding of Srimad Bhagavatam, you will not be satisfied merely by narration of the stories. Mere storytelling will not be sufficient because you know the story already. So we must be able to delve deeper and deeper into the concepts, into the principles, into the values, into the messages. I would like you to follow this point very, very clearly. Srimad Bhagavata is a scholarly text, a wonderful scriptural composition. And it explains matters in a very detailed manner, subtle manner, systematic, rational manner, going deeper and deeper into the different levels of understanding. Here, the author uses three particular words indicating three different stages or levels. Tachrinvan, Vipathan, Vicharanaparo. One is exposure by means of hearing. Anybody can hear when there is a narration or an exposition. Thereafter it is Vipathan. Once you have become attuned to listening, you understand about Srimad Bhagavatam or such a text, you should get a copy of it and start reading it yourself without anybody's help. In hearing, you have to hear somebody, so somebody will have to speak to you and you will have to be present when he is speaking. In the matter of reading, you are alone, it is independent, it is a sovereign process, nobody else's help is required. So first of all it is listening. Thereafter it is reading oneself. Is it sufficient? No, no, no. Vicharanaparo. What does it mean? Reflecting upon in a very thoughtful manner. After you read a word, you try to understand. After understanding it, you still go further into it. In terms of this understanding, what am I expected to do? In what way does it affect me? Either in a good manner or in a bad manner. Am I to eliminate something undesirable from me? Or am I to incorporate consistently something desirable in me? How far is my mind pure? How far is my intelligence illumined? All these points you have to be carefully going into. Vicharanaparo. Tattva vichara is the last word in spiritual, philosophical, devotional pursuit. Until you have this vichara pursuit and process, I don't think the inner personality can be refined, reformed, and it can evolve. Certainly not. How long can you listen to a story narration? The story narration is after all narrating the same story over and over again. So you can non-hearingly hear it. That's what you can do. There is no problem at all. The pravakta goes on speaking and you are physically there. Mentally you need not be there. But that is not sufficient. To arrest our attention, to occupy our mind, to engage our intelligence, we will have to delve into the propositions mentioned. Here are only three words. Tad, that, shrinvan, hearing, vipathan, reading, vicharanaparaha, remaining engrossed in introspection. Only three words. See how many minutes I have explained these words. So there is a lot to be understood. Then bhaktya vimucche naraha. Anyone will be liberated by the power and the process and the pursuit of devotion. Anybody will be liberated. But that bhakti cannot be a blind bhakti. It has to be an enlightened one, a persistent one, a consistent one, associated with reformation, refinement, purification, sublimation, enrichment, expansion of your mind. All these are necessary. Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam Yad Vaishnavanam Priyam Yasmin Paramahamsya Megam Amalam Jnanam Param Giyate Jnanam Param Giyate Tatra Jnana Viraga Bhakti Sahitam Naishkarmyam Avishkrutam tat shrinvan vipathan vicharanaparo bhaktya vimucchen naraha. This is a full description of Srimad Bhagavatam. Not only that, so far as Srimad Bhagavatam is concerned, what is a devotee supposed to do with regard to Srimad Bhagavatam? He has to listen to the exposition, read the text himself, and then remain engrossed in introspecting over whatever is the message, value and truth presented by it. Now, I spoke to you all this in connection with Kavi's exposition. Shrinvan subhadrani rathangapane janmani karmani chayani loge gitani namani tadarthagani gayan vilajjo vicharet asangaha. In connection with that verse, I mentioned to you. Now let us go back to what he says further. Evam vrataswapriya nama kirtya Jadānurāgo drudachitta uchchaihi hasatyatho roditi raudi gayati unmādavan nrityati lokabāhyaha. Devotion is a very powerful weapon. It's a very, very effective practice and pursuit. Perhaps many of you do not know the taste and delicacy of devotion. Maximum you will go, fold your hands in front of a deity and come back. This is what you will do. But devotion is not something like that. It has to be applied to your mind. And by applying in the mind, devotional emotions will have to be generated, allowed to crop up in your mind. Similarly, it has to pierce your intelligence, rendering it more and more perceptive, more and more subtle, more and more powerful and equipped to understand matters. Not merely the objects of the world, but their one subject. What did I say? My dear viewers, are you with me when I say this? Or you allow me to run and you are behind? I don't want you to be behind at all. I would rather be behind all of you. But I want you to be with me. Understand it very clearly. Very clearly. Devotion is a very powerful practice. Powerful practice. Like a drilling machine, when properly applied, it goes on drilling even the hardest of steel. Goes on drilling. And you will find the shavings come off. In the same manner, devotion, when it is properly applied to your mind and a heart, it produces a number of changes and transformations in you. Listen to what Kavi, the yogi Kavi says. Evam vrataha. Consider this to be a vrata, an anushtana, a very rigorous, vigorous, religious practice. What is that? Swapriyanama kirtya. Swapriyanama kirtya. Swapriyanama kirtya. How many times shall I say this? Please write it somewhere in 2 or 3 places in your house on the wall. Swapriya Nama Kirtya. Every one of you is worshipping God. I agree. I give you a good certificate. But I am asking you, what is your regard, evaluation about God? Most of you will say, oh, I am a God-fearing person. God-fearing person. Some others will say, I have a lot of regard and respect for God. Every month I set apart a certain money for Him. For whom? For God. He wants your money. What will you do with the money? Money is something that you have made by using the substances created by God. The metal part comes from the earth. The currency part also comes from the earth. So what is it that God wants from you? Certainly nothing. Nothing material or outer. If at all He wants anything from you, He wants a full place in your heart. Are you prepared to give it? No. My heart is full with my children, with my husband, with my wife, with X, with Y. That's not what God wants at all. Swapriyanama kirtya. You should consider God to be your beloved. 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 Swapriya. He is extremely dear and beloved to me. Have you ever thought of God in terms of belovedness? Certainly not. There was a Prahlada, a 7-year-old boy, who thought in that manner. A 5-year-old boy, Dhruva, thought of in that manner. But I don't think we are so blessed and fortunate to think of God. Even the parents, they don't teach the children. God is the most beloved for you.